checking really quick. Oh, looks fine. I'm trying to figure out. Fine now, I think. Let's go. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the double Game Week 33 pod of the FPL Wire, powered by DreamSetGo. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined as always by my co host, Late Riser. How's it going, buddy?
It's been a taxing week at work. I didn't really get into FPL until maybe last night, which was probably a good thing because we had a bit of news last night. But exciting times ahead. Your team could potentially have a double in Game Week 34. And there's a certain player who have a history with last season who's hitting a slight patch of form. So I'm a little excited about that because there was so much pain last season with him. And I believe in the player. And if there is an explosion to come in the last leg of this season, I want to be there. I'm excited about that. How are you doing?
Doing great. Not so good after Chelsea went out, but it was fair. The Modric pass, I just can't get over how ridiculous that was. But I'm happy to see all the other English teams are through. It's good to see West Ham and Leicester up there. I think West Ham have a genuine shot of winning it now. Especially they wanted the whole dream semi with Barcelona, but Barcelona out now. It's Frankfurt and West Ham.
What was that result, man? Last night I was like,
Mad.
some result that.
You have to say West Ham are massive. Right?
Massive.
And even Leicester, that was a great game, end to end. I didn't think they would pull it back, but I was impressed. Right?
Yeah.
There's no point in me talking about the last game week. I think it feels so long ago.
Yeah. Nothing much to talk about except Son absolutely destroyed me on Saturday night. Destroyed us on Saturday night. And it's a little bit of a dilemma. Do you really want to ignore him going into the final part of the season? Because if he's getting a couple of goals more, he's in the Golden Boot race. And
penalties might
players
go
are aware
to
of
Son.
Players are aware of that kind of stuff. So exciting times. I think there are some big decisions to make, and I think there's opportunities for chasers, and even the guys who are trying to hold rank have some big decisions to make. I don't think it's that easy, but that's what makes this game fun.
Cool. Let's get started. DreamSetGo is India's first sports travel and experiences platform, offering a range of premium end-to-end authentic experiences across football, cricket, tennis, F1, rugby and golf, among others. From matchday hospitality to VIP stadium tours, from private meet and greets with athletes and legends to exclusive access to their training sessions, DreamSetGo curates the most fulfilling sports travel packages for fans like you.
Also, just want to say that all the stats that you see on our podcast are from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. If you aren't a member already, it's totally worth it, especially for the final leg of the season. Please click on the link in the description below to become a member. And a lot of people have been asking, where our friend Big Man Bucker is. He famously/infamously tweeted a couple of days ago that he's getting wood. I don't know whether he was talking about FPL or not, but the man's fasting for Ramadan at the moment, so it's a little bit difficult for him to get on the pod. So he should probably be with us next week. If not, the week after that, he will be with us. Right, Zoff, we had some double game week news fall our way last evening. You were really happy about that because you were adamant that we pod on Friday morning just in case we had double game week news and we wanted to know all the European results before podding. So why don't you just tell people what's been up?
So what has happened now with Chelsea's elimination in Europe? We now have two more midweeks that have freed up. The midweeks of 34 and 35 and 37. What has happened now? We've most likely, I think that Sunday is supposed to be the FA Cup final. So if we make the FA Cup final, that fixture has been moved now to 34. So if Chelsea now, let's say, beat Palace in the FA Cup semi, we would play Arsenal in 33. The double in 34 would be West Ham at home, United away, 35 Everton, 36 Wolves and Leeds, 37 Leicester, 38 Watford. That's a good run. Now, if conversely, if Palace win,
No, just go back to that one.
Sure.
We'll just discuss the scenario in terms of what's happening and how that impacts our thinking if Chelsea win against Palace in the FA Cup. Because there's another big thing that happens because of that is that United then have a double in 33 and 34. So the double in 33 would be Norwich at home and Liverpool away, and the double in 34 wouldn't be that good looking. It's Arsenal away and Chelsea at home. Now, Arsenal isn't as tough a fixture as it used to be maybe 2 weeks ago because of the injuries that have happened at the club. So I think people are now looking at United assets closer than they did previously. What's your immediate thinking with the breaking of this news? And if Chelsea do manage to beat Palace in the FA Cup?
first of all, is I think the 34 double is quite difficult, and the whole entire schedule over 2 weeks, Norwich, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, barring Norwich, is a pretty tough run. Because especially Liverpool and Arsenal are both away, and Chelsea are decent travelers. And this is all going to be in the space of 2 weeks. So initially, I was thinking that maybe Ronaldo would be the best pick for 33 as a transfer, not on a free hit. But I'm not that confident that he'll start all four of these games.
Fair enough. The way I see it is that Ronaldo will want to play the big games and he will play the big games. Cavani has not been fit for a while. And Rashford did fairly well against Everton up front, So people might be considering, Rannick might be considering playing Rashford striker in one of the three big games. I think Ronaldo absolutely starts the Norwich home game because it's a Ronaldo fixture in my head. As a United asset, you can look at those assets. If you're on wildcard and if you're wildcarding in Game Week 34, I think it's easy to just pick your favorite assets for Game Week 34, wildcard United assets out, and go heavy on Chelsea in 34. I think for somebody like you that still has a wildcard left, I think that's the biggest opportunity, going heavy on Chelsea next week.
Okay. I'm still not that keen on going heavy on United, even with this 33 double, even with the wildcard in hand, because I don't think that I'm still looking at it as a single game week fixture and 1 or 2 points.
Yeah. And just again, on the note of free hit, because everybody is asking in terms of what to do with the free hit, it sort of walks itself into a free hit Game Week 37, no matter where the Manchester City double falls, whether it's in 36 or 37. Because if you're going heavy on Chelsea in Game Week 34, they have, in my opinion, the best double in Game Week 36. So then you're already heavy on Chelsea.
I don't agree. That Leeds game is only going to be 3 days before the FA Cup final.
Okay. And the FA Cup final is when exactly? Can you just explain the schedule to me?
I'll pull up Lego Money sticker. That will make us visualize it better. I see over Palace, Arsenal, West Ham, then United, then Everton, then a free midweek. Then it's Wolves, Leeds. Then the United fixture where it's going, that's where the FA Cup final will fall. So we would play Wolves, Leeds, FA Cup final, Leicester, Watford. 3 days gap.
Got it. That's a very good point. Then you might see some of the big guns rested in that.
You will almost
game
certainly
against
see,
them.
like against, especially because it's Leeds, even though they're not Bielsa, they're still a intense team. And the FA Cup is pretty much the only trophy now we have got to go for. When we're most likely going to be, not most likely, we will be playing one of Liverpool or Man City.
That's a good point. Maybe you need to be wary. It doesn't make free hit 36 a no-brainer then, especially if you're plumping heavy.
Unless you want to convert your Chelsea guys to City guys by that time, and City's double goes in 36.
Yep. You have to judge the game state at that point. That's a really good point. I see some of the big guns rested before the FA Cup game.
I think Rudiger, we'll talk about Chelsea more in detail next week, but I see only Rudiger is the one who's going to play both games in 36. You might even see Mendy rested, might give Kepa a game to warm up for the FA Cup just to get like some fitness, some sharpness up.
That said, irrespective, no matter what, if you're wildcarding next week, you're going heavy on Chelsea.
Definitely,
It's the opportunity.
if we start talking about Chelsea, the pod is going to get completely sidetracked. I know, about 30, 40 minutes. There's a lot to unpack there. Let's just dial back to this week first. Let's talk about Palace again. And then we need to talk
Just
about
want to
Leicester.
mention though, the reason why we are not going in depth when it comes to Chelsea assets right now is because we think it's worthwhile. Like in my position, I have 2 free transfers. It might be worthwhile just getting your captain for 33 because I think there are better teams to commit to next week onwards, especially if you're not on wildcard with your free transfers, especially if Chelsea have a double in 34. And also, before game week 34 arrives, we have 2 games of Chelsea to watch in terms of assessing what they're going to be looking like in the future as well. So that's why after watching these 2 games, we'll dive deeper into Chelsea on the next pod.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, if Palace beat Chelsea in the FA Cup, now Chelsea's doubles will stay in 36 and 37. Palace's double in 37 will get brought forward to 35. So Palace and Villa would have the double in that case. Palace's fixtures would read from this week: Newcastle, Leeds. The double would be Southampton away, Villa away. Not great, but still decent. Watford at home would be 36, 37 Everton away, 38 United at home. Villa's double in 35 is very attractive in that sense. Becomes Norwich and Palace
Very.
at home.
Yeah, and I think people are going to be sidetracked a little by Villa not being a good team. If you saw the Spurs game, Villa actually were really, really good in the first 50, 60 minutes. The first half was sensational. They could have had a couple of goals. Spurs were pegged back in that first half, and Villa were popping shots after shots, and they were in the game because of Lloris, in my opinion. And another big factor is Nakamba was very, very close to starting against Spurs, and I'm fairly sure he's going to be starting now. And Gerard's pretty much mentioned how important a player he is to that team. So I think you go heavy on Villa in 35 if they have that double.
Another point I would like to mention now: Villa also play Leicester just before the Europa League conference game.
Yeah,
So again, you're going to see like a lot of players potentially rested and stuff like that. So that might be an easier fixture also than we think.
exactly. That game week 35, whether it has a double or not, is quite an important game week because we might see a lot of rest rotation in that game week because it's sandwiched between both the European ties. Now, the one that jumps out the most to me is Spurs. Spurs play Leicester away,
Yeah,
and
Leicester at White Hart Lane.
yes, Leicester at White Hart Lane, and I'm scared about not owning both Son and Kane in that week because that looks like points, 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 especially because I'm expecting Evans and Fofana to be rested in that game. So you just look at Lego Mane's ticker. I think this is great as a visual tool to see which teams are having European ties around it and don't have anything else. I think you don't pay too much attention to Liverpool and Man City when it comes to this ticker because there's 1 point in the title race and league status. After the results at the game week, league state has helped us in thinking that they're still going to be most probably starting their first choice team more often than not. They're just going to run those players to the ground in the final end of the season. One other factor is Cancelo. If you don't own him, now he becomes an even bigger factor because he got his second yellow in the last Champions League tie, so he's not eligible to play the first leg of the Champions League game. So he, not that there was any doubt in my head that he's not going to start all the league games, but it's even more clearer now.
Couple of things to mention now. It's always important to note in UCL which team is playing Tuesday, Wednesday, and which team is playing Wednesday, Tuesday. Because the guys who are playing Wednesday, Tuesday, they get royally shafted. They get 2 days rest, less rest in the league, so they most likely rotate on Saturday. Now that's what Klopp has done. He's put in a request to have that lunchtime kickoff changed to a 7:45 p.m. kickoff. Now if that's denied, Liverpool also becomes a little trickier. City now have the Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's much better in terms of recovery. You get 3 days clear recovery each side. So that Liverpool fixture away to Newcastle, if it remains an early kickoff with a Wednesday, Tuesday turnaround, is slightly dodgy. I still think
But
Salah
it's
and
a
all
trick.
will play, but it is tricky.
Yeah, but the who are the FPL assets that we own? Trent, Robbo, Salah, maybe Jota or Diaz. All of them start, in my opinion. It's a tough game, and I think Klopp is mindful of that.
Chimikas was really good. That's the only one I possibly may think Klopp might be tempted, but I don't think they'll take a chance given the league state. But that is an immediate red flag that popped up when I was looking at the schedule.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that City Liverpool game and just in terms of assets that you're liking for the run in. What did you make of that game? Great game, breathless. But if you really ask me, I thought City were the slightly better team in that
Significantly
game.
better, especially in the first half.
Yeah, and
They should have
that
put the
said,
game to bed. I think they played this. So the Klopp's high line that upset. I love that he sort of love and hate that he just will not compromise on that.
yeah, and people talk about City creating too many chances. That high line also they are so obsessed with that high line, and it's great in my opinion. I have no problems. I think it's a great way to play football.
No
A
qualms.
lot of the chances that look good on paper were actually offside, and it was a well executed high line. So they had two or three chances, and a lot of people are worried about, are thinking about Gabriel Jesus maybe being an option for the. You cracked a joke in there somewhere which I missed completely.
I said no qualms. There was a whole drinking game that people started every time you use the word qualms.
Yeah, it's been happening every pod. I catch on to one word and then I go on and on with that word, and it's just the zone that I'm in. I don't know. I'm always two coffees down when I'm podding with you in the morning, so a little wired. Uh, so
Right,
yeah,
right.
I thought it was a well executed high line, and people might be a little wary of Liverpool defense after looking at that City, but it was just good execution. Great game of football, and can't wait for the run in.
I hope KDB is not injured because I think without him they're a much worse team.
Agreed, and there's this KDB who's a little leggy, injured, and then there's KDB in full flow. I was watching the game. Every chance, which was a genuine chance for Manchester City, De Bruyne was either the assister or at the end of that cross in a position to score. Uh, 2 3 weeks ago, also we said that he's one of the best differentials in the game. I think also now he's just one of the best differentials in the game. That said, let's talk free hitters for a little
So
bit.
let's. I
If
think
you
let's just go down. Let's go with each of the team, the doubles.
Cool. I just want to, before we go into each of the teams, one question I want to ask you. If you're picking three big hitters on wildcard, and let's assume you can get to three, which three would you go with
On wildcard in 34.
in 34?
Previously, I was in all the drafts I've sent you. I was on KDB, Son, and Salah. But now what I'm thinking, I sort of want more Chelsea players, and the City doubles fall in 36. I might want a double defense, something with Foden. I'm thinking I'll probably go with two instead of in Spurs. I might have just Kulusevski and Son and not Kane, because ultimately I'm going to captain only one of Kane or Son, and there's probably I think 2 games from now till the end of the season where I'll have a Spurs captain. Kulusevski, I know he's obviously not going to match Kane, but he's going to be +5, +6 thereabouts, and this is almost a 6 million saving.
Fair enough.
It
So
can
the
go a long
top
way.
two assets for now would be Mo and Son.
Mo and Son, definitely, and KDB is fit. But that being said, I always worry about KDB in a tight schedule. He's a Rolls Royce. You don't drive him every day. You don't. I think he is possibly going to have some games managed in the league. Let's say if they play Madrid away, then it's Newcastle at home, and they have another game in the double, 36, 37. You might see some management of minutes for KDB, even if he is declared fit.
Fair. And I still have Son over the City mids as an FPL asset, just because you know that he's not playing any European games. He's probably going to be chasing the Golden Boot as well, and 90-minute man. You just go for that,
Hat-trick
and he's just
potential.
much more attacking.
Absolute
Hat-trick
hat-trick potential every game.
Agreed. Cool. Let's do the team by team thing.
Right. First up, I think we have to talk about Leicester. Now, as we had mentioned, now the schedule is absolutely horrendous now till the end of the season. It's games literally every 3 days till game week 38. They've become a completely no-go for me in terms of buying players for a longer term. What do you think?
In fact, they become a team to target if you're looking at the fixture schedule, like how we are looking at that Spurs game in game week 35. I want Spurs assets for that game in 35 because there's no doubt in my head there's going to be a secondary team playing that game. What happens this week, though? Let's say if you're on free hit, you go for Leicester players?
Now, what's going to be interesting is we saw Barnes yesterday subbed at halftime, and Lookman came on and Perez came on. Both were very, very good. So now they've sort of put themselves in contention for thereabouts in the first team. So what I think he's possibly going to do is less players against Newcastle because you've had such a draining game. Play the first team against Everton. Then again rest the guys against Villa because that's just before the European game. Then play B team against Tottenham, etc., etc. That sort of flows into it. The thing is, you can't obviously keep benching the first team players. They're going to lose match
Because rhythm
sharpness.
is important.
Rhythm is important. So you're going to likely see sub minutes and all that stuff. And what has actually happened for Barnes now, because he might not be in the first team, you might see him actually start more Premier League games.
Agree with you. And especially because in the last two games, he's played only 45 He played 45 in the European time. He played, 15, 20 odd in that game before that. So he's fresh to start the Newcastle game. I think he starts the Newcastle game. If you own him, you hold him. But if you're on free hit, do you buy Chelsea players?
Leicester, you mean?
Leicester players, sorry.
I don't think so, because I think even if you, let's say, buy Barnes, I think there's no guarantee he plays Everton away, because Lookman has to get the start now. And Barnes is very particularly mentioned in his post press match that Lookman should get more minutes, but Barnes plays in that same position and all that stuff. So
Exactly.
I don't
And
know if now he'll start the second game. So most Leicester assets they're looking at to me just like one game players this week.
and if you're looking for a cheap asset, Dewsbury Hall is maybe an option. I think James Justin is some place where people could go because he didn't start the European game, right?
No.
And he's fit, right? There's no issue with injury.
No,
or
he's
anything,
fine. He
right?
was
So,
warming up, but Pereira scored the goal. So Pereira is clearly first choice now.
yeah, so I don't mind James Justin as a punt if you really want something. I prefer the Newcastle defenders at the moment. But if you want to go Leicester, I think you go James Justin. That's about it.
Only one I can see who's probably going to start both games is probably Schmeichel and probably Dewsbury Hall. Everybody else, total minefield, because you have to understand the scale of this for Leicester. It's their first ever European semi-final. They can't have the top guys get injured. They're going to be handled with kid gloves.
Exactly. And if you don't have a wild card, I don't think you buy a Leicester player now.
Absolutely
You just see it out, and if they're out of Europe before 36, maybe plump on them on free hit 36. Outside of that, don't really touch
not.
them.
You know who they're playing?
That's where we are. Everton and Norwich at
No,
home.
in the Europa Conference in the semi-final.
No, I don't. Who are they playing?
Jose Mourinho's Roma.
Oh wow, that's going to be fun.
Box
Rog
office.
versus Jose. That is so much content out there. We should probably do a Europa League pod based on that game alone.
I know. So my point is, it's not an easy game.
It's not an easy game. It's not an easy game. So yeah, I think Leicester shouldn't be a part of your thinking going forward. That's about it. If you own them, start them. If you own Maddison, no problem starting him. He plays. He's going to play the Everton game, which is probably the game you want your Leicester asset starting anyway. And with Maddison, remember last year we spoke about Maddison at so many times, and the one thing that sticks out to me, remembering last season, is Maddison is streaky. When he's on it, and then he goes on this run of 5, 6, 7 games where he returns consistently. So he's hot at the moment, and you go for him.
I still expect Leicester to do all right at Newcastle, even with a B team, because it's momentum. A feel-good feeling is if they lost, then you probably feel that players bit down and all that stuff. But having won, players will be on a high. The guys who aren't in the first team, they'll want to prove themselves. So I still think they're going to give Newcastle a game.
Next double game week team, or touch upon Newcastle because I think they're the most interesting, one of the most interesting double.
Let's just jump straight into Newcastle now. As Baker mentioned on his pod, the timing of the fixtures is very important to note for Newcastle. They're playing Leicester right after the Europa League game and Palace right after the FA Cup game. So Palace also might rotate. They might have fatigue. That game might go to 120 minutes, etc. We don't know. So Newcastle, I think, are by far the team to target on a free hit.
Agreed. And I don't mind. I'm actually more interested in their attack than their defense, despite their good numbers in defense. The defenders are cheap. If you're, there are two scenarios here. Somebody like you who has a wild card left, and somebody like me who needs to plan every transfer because I have 5 or 6 free transfers left in the season. So I'm thinking, do I really want to spend a free transfer on a Newcastle defender at the moment? That said, you can't ignore every single game week. I tweeted out last week. If you have a free hit left, you have 5 game weeks left. Every week is 20% of your season that's remaining. So even if you're attacking 1 week, it's worth attacking because it's such a big part of your season that's left. So if you can find a space, I don't mind going for a St. Max or a Wood at the moment, especially because in the last game against Wolves, Wood is the most lively I've seen him since he's been at St. James's Park. So trying not to grin here and just to mention to a friend, big man Bucker, but I think he's a good option. Some people are considering him as a captaincy option. Do you see it? I don't see the captain.
I like it. I think he's the best shout this week. Who else? I don't trust United in the second fixture. If you're looking at potential in both games, it has to be Newcastle this week.
Not for me. There's no doubt in my head. I think a United captain is a better option than a Newcastle captaincy option. We're Jekyll and Hyde, but we do have a Jekyll in us. We do have the potential to put 4 or 5 goals past Norwich. If you remember the Watford game, we should have had 7 goals. It was 3 or 4 game weeks ago. We should have had 7
But
goals.
that's the
That nil
story
nil
of the
against Wolves.
season. The last 7 games under Ranieri, every 1-1 has been like you guys should have scored 5 and you score 1.
I know, but you're somebody who believes in underlying numbers, right? And does somebody like a Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes forget how to finish overnight? I think the game where they had so many chances and they didn't take it is the anomaly, not the norm. So I think if you're chasing upside, United captaincy is the way to go. And it's more because of Norwich being the defensive shit show that they've been this season. A lot of people are saying, oh, they've kept 2 clean sheets. On the track, they've conceded the most number of shots in the last 2 weeks. Back to back. They've
They played
conceded
Brighton
5
and
XG.
Burnley for those 2 clean
Between
sheets.
them conceding 2 XG to Burnley was okay, I need to captain a United player because they conceded 2 XG to Burnley. Like that's what was in my head, and I think you target that. That's what I'm probably looking to do. I'm looking to get a United player this week just to get my captain in place, and I think it's United players are better captaincy option. A lot of people are saying it's Norwich at home and 2 points. I don't think that's the case. I think that's bullshit. And there might be some United fan bias out there, but Liverpool do give you big chances. United players will be fired up for that game. It's down to Alisson. You're telling me that Ronaldo and Bruno, I think we'll get pummeled. I think we will concede. So I'm not recommending an attacker. But are United
defender.
not capable of scoring a goal or two at Anfield? I don't buy that. I think there's a good chance we can get a goal or two, especially because the quality of the players on the pitch. Yes, we are a non-functional team, but there is enough talent in the squad. I don't think you rule out a goal or two for United players at Anfield either. I think that's bullshit. People are saying 2 points plus Norwich. No chance.
Personally, I think it makes sense to play that game Bruno up top, play Rash and Sancho on the wings to play the space behind the fullbacks. That's why I don't like Ronaldo as much in that game.
That's true, but the last big game that we did really well was against Spurs, and Ronaldo was man of the match against Spurs, and I don't think Rangnick forgets that. And I think he starts the Liverpool game. And if I had to put my neck on the line, I think he maybe misses the Arsenal game, if any. Because what happens is if Chelsea do get that double in 34, we have 4 games back to back, and after that, over 4 or 5 weeks, we just have 3 games left to play. So it's not like they're saving them for anything. We only have 7 games left to play this season.
That's not how sports science works.
I understand, but Ronaldo's anyway not played much. There's not much minutes in his leg. He's done previously. He's been rested only when he played 120 minutes at one point. That's when he was rested. He might get rested 1 out of the 4 games, but midweek we can schedule for 2 weeks and then just rest, especially when you've been resting for a while anyway. I don't think it's improbable to say he starts all anyway, or maybe some managed minutes, but I see him getting rested in one of the 2 games in the 34 double, not in 33.
I think.
And Bruno, much more guaranteed to play all. I agree with you on that.
What I was saying was what plays into you guys' favor is the fact that Norwich got a result against Burnley. They'll be obviously buoyant a little bit. They've got 4 points in the last 6, and it's pretty much do or die now. The next few games against you guys, and they have Newcastle and Villa. They to put themselves in any sort of chance. You could say they've accepted relegation, but they'll obviously go down kicking and screaming, or at least try to. So they might be more open otherwise than they would have been.
Agreed. Let's go back to Newcastle because I think
something I just want to touch about on Leicester. Also, something I want to mention now. Also, if you're going to build towards a 36 BB now, it's very difficult to get Leicester players because they're pretty much dead to you before that. So the player pool now, if you have to build towards a 36 BB, reduces significantly unless you're planning on having Schmeichel and somebody like Dewsbury Hall who's going to be a bench warmer till then.
And anyway, we were thinking that 36 BB is a better option because we like the free hit in 36 and the 37 BB because there are much better bench options, especially now that Everton got that result against United. Those home games against Brentford and Palace are huge, and I don't mind cheap Everton assets on your bench for a BB there. So I think if you're building, you build towards
Gordon works there well there.
Yeah, fabulous. Best 4.5 million in the game. Midfielder in the game at the moment. You go there, and we've seen it now. Everton at home are a completely different beast compared to Everton away. I think Lampard's won 5 out of 7 games at home now. So I think you need to change your perception when you're looking at home ties for Everton. That's why probably I'm looking to start Richarlison this week as well because they're playing Leicester at home.
The only problem with that is a lot of the teams that have good fixtures in 37 have very poor fixtures in 38. So if you're planning to bench boost that week and you're looking at a lot of doublers that week, then your Villa guys play City away in 38. Everton play Arsenal that week.
Yeah.
So Chelsea now most likely won't have the double. So the options right now, it's more and more or less building towards a 37 free hit now rather than a 37 BB. The way things are, because from what
Yeah.
I've spoken to Ben and James on Planet FPL, they all think City is now more likely than not to go in 36, primarily so that the league can be kept even. You don't want City to have played one fixture less, Liverpool to have played one fixture more at this stage of the season.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think it's. I agree with you, but I'm sitting on Gordon and Richarlison in my head. Having the option to carry those two players right through 37. In my head, I'm thinking then I'd much rather free hit in 36 and then go haul chasing in other weeks if I have to. So there is a certain team specific nature
Correct.
to it. I think if you're wildcarding in 34, in my head, 37 free hit makes more sense because the fixtures play that way, especially if City double in 36. But again, there's a slight team specific nature to it. Now, we've again meandered our way all through different points that we want to cover, but I want to go back to Newcastle. I think going for the defenders on a free hit, especially if you're looking at somebody like Shah, is a decent option. Though, if you're not on a free hit, I don't know if I want to spend transfers on a Newcastle defender this week. What do you think?
Because every transfer you have now, and there are a lot of people who have especially defensive crisis because you have Doherty, Tierney, a lot of injuries that have happened in defense, but there is an opportunity cost for every transfer now. Every player you bring in, that's probably one less transfer you have to bring in a Chelsea player in 34.
Yeah.
So I would say max, if you getting somebody cheap like Newcastle is decent, but the problem is the fixtures from 35, 36, 37, 30, they're pretty much dead to you for the rest of the season in terms of options. So if you can afford to bench him, your team structure allows that to like bench a Newcastle player. There are points there. There is a 12 to 15 point potentially there, which I think you should attack. But then only if the team structure is in such a way that you can bench that guy for the rest of the season.
It's an option for me right now because I'm using one free transfer to get a United player to captain. I have two free transfers this week. So I can either save that transfer and attack Chelsea next week and, maybe do a -4, -8, get the right Chelsea City players in place for the run-in, or I attack a Newcastle defender. I don't even know if I go for a Newcastle defender, it has to be Shah in my opinion because he's 4.4 million and I want to save cash, especially because I'm going to bench that Newcastle defender for the run-in. I think even 0.6 million, if I go for a Kelly in that spot and dead end that spot, might be more worth it, especially if I'm not sitting on wildcard and I've used my bench boost. Yesterday, I tweeted saying that a lot of people are not looking at Kelly as a Matt Doherty replacement. I think is a legit option because the point that I was trying to make is if you've used your bench boost, they're in one spot to generate some funds, especially when people like Kane and Son are looking indispensable, especially when De Bruyne is putting his hand up, especially when Mo Salah is Mo Salah. And you maybe you want to try getting 3 free big hitters instead of 2 for the run. And when these guys have big fixtures, might be something people should consider, especially if you've used your bench boost. That's all.
Let's just rank the Newcastle defenders. I did a small piece on share versus target and it's pretty close. Target is taking a large chunk of the set pieces now, especially since Fraser is out. But on the baseline bonus, share is significantly better. So I think it would be share, target, burn in that order for me.
Yeah, the price difference counts, in my opinion. On free hit though, burn and share would be slightly. It's free hit only. Burn and share are fun because we're talking about Leicester and Palace.
You'd probably get Dubravka above either of those guys. So we probably left like one spot, right?
If you want to go for another keeper, I don't mind going for 2 defenders because there's upside there. Because again, Leicester and Palace have vulnerability on set pieces, right? As we've seen all season. And I think Baker mentioned that Burn has the highest offensive
aerial duels one.
Sure, aerial duels one in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and you don't mind trying to catch a goal on a set piece. One other stat that I read that was quite interesting on Scout was 8 of the last 12 goals that Newcastle have scored have been from set pieces as well. So they're quite the set piece monsters, So I don't mind going for a Burn or a Char in this week, trying to just get that goal.
Same thing with target. Target's the one taking the set piece.
Let's say if you let's say the odds of you hitting either an assist or a goal are higher, you still get 3 more points for a defender goal compared to an assist. Just
That's
That's
true.
another thought
I have
that's
to
in
look
my
at the
head.
bonus
Yeah,
points because if I remember right, Burn was better on the bonus than target as well. I have to have another look at that. But I think share is the
fair enough.
topic in my opinion.
And if people want to go for an ASM over a wood, I have no problems with that either. I think from an entertainment standpoint, it's going to be fun watching that. And you need one good game from ASM, and I think he's going to be starting the both the games. I don't think it's going to be minutes managed or anything of that sort. And wood is the right option on paper, but it's 1 week. You want to chase variance and go for an ASM. I have no problems with that either.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Arsenal?
Wait, before we move away from uh, Newcastle, because now KDH might not look like a as good option for a bench boost. If you're looking to bench boost, I think Bruno Guimaraes is a good option for a bench boost. I thought he was a proper six and sitting deep, but in the last game against Wolves, he was fairly advanced. He was almost like an
Bench
eight,
boost
and
in
he
which
was
week?
this week.
Okay. Basically bringing in, you like
Yeah.
him as a pick for this week. Okay.
Yeah, as a cheap bench asset because he's what 4.55 million, if I'm not
4.9.
mistaken. 4.9 million. I think he's a decent pick on the bench boost this week if you're wildcarding in 34 because he's an advanced eight. He's a little involved in his chances. I'm expecting him to play both the games. He was really good against Wolves. I don't mind that as an option. Just wanted to cite that
Yeah,
out to people
nobody else
looking
in
for a cheap
midfield.
midfield.
With Frazier
Yeah,
now like not an option. I think they're probably going to play Almiron in that position. I don't think
yeah,
anyone's going to buy Almiron. Willock also is having some
yeah,
injury issues, so it's only in defense and up
yeah.
top.
And he was fairly advanced against Wolves, so I like that. Just
Good player.
trying to get a return on it.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the single game week, guys, and how to balance a little bit later. We'll just go through the double game week teams. Arsenal. Lacazette hasn't been training this week. How do you think they set up?
I mean, there's a little bit of a tweet that's doing the rounds where they're expecting Nikita to play up front with Martinelli and Saka on the wings, and then they're going to play two eights with Odegaard and ESR with one holding midfielder. That's how I'm expecting them to start against Southampton. And you like the idea of owning Martinelli and Saka, especially for the game against Southampton and their high line. So uh, people are a little worried because of the downturn in form, but it looks like Arsenal might set up to attack the Southampton team because playing defensive. The problem has been goals for them. I'm cautiously optimistic about Arsenal attackers in that first game against Southampton.
On free hit, which three would you pick if you're picking three?
Arsenal? I don't know if I'd pick a defender now because the second game is against Chelsea, and I don't know if I want to go there, but I'd go with Saka and Martinelli. Still,
Fair enough.
yeah. I think if you're picking for just 1 week and because of Southampton's high line, Martinelli is the one that I would prefer over Saka just for this game week on a free hit if you want just one.
Because even if Nketiah gets subbed off, it's most likely it's Martinelli who's going up top.
Yep. Yes.
So they're a bit of a wait and
But
watch after that. Because the fixtures after that, United and West Ham. West Ham also is worth mentioning. That's on either side of the Europa League games. But being a London derby at home, I don't think they will rotate and rest as much as Leicester will.
they still need to, though.
They still need to because you saw what
There's
happened
no
at
doubt in my-
Brentford. You saw what happened at Brentford. They didn't
Yeah.
rotate. They got steamrolled.
Yeah. They still need to. I think they again that Arsenal game in Game Week 35, that West Ham game in Game Week 34, Arsenal is a good game. You don't mind playing your attackers in that game because you'll probably see a depleted West Ham team.
Right, and then
in
you have
35.
the double, then Newcastle, Everton. So might be worth holding
Yeah.
on to one.
I own White and Ramsdale at the moment, and I'm looking to start White. And it's tough for me to bench Ramsdale because he's been so good to me this season. Trying to catch a haul with one of these keepers against a big team like Chelsea, there's always chance for a haul. But I think that's just a little bit of a stretch. Wanting to play Ramsdale over Dubravka, you think you play Dubravka over Ramsdale?
Because clean sheet potential in 2 fixtures outweighs that.
Yeah, that said, I'm not very bullish. I think Newcastle keep one clean sheet at max because even if you're playing a depleted Leicester team, both Leicester and Palace know how to attack. They're both capable of scoring goals. That's it. Palace have been shit show away. That's it. I still think they get one clean sheet at max. Like I don't think it's a nailed on 2 clean sheet kind of thing.
Possible.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Newcastle we've already covered. Let's talk about Southampton. Replying to the conversation, I think they're going to give Arsenal a game. I expect some sort of reaction, and this has always been the case. last few years. Whenever they've got a pummeling, the next few games they usually do bounce back. And Arsenal are the sort of team I think they'll fancy taking on, and then is Burnley away. I think Southampton assets are slightly being slept on this week.
Yeah, but if you're on a free hit, I think you focus in other places. Maybe you just go for a Broya because he's been rested or
I
something
fancy
like that. But
Ward-Prowse because I think
you
he's the
fancy
sort of
Watras.
leader in the team. I think he's the one I'm probably going to bring in now. I can't bring in a Leicester mid. So with Ward-Prowse, the thing is the chance creation numbers are up there. He's created as many as Kulusevski. So only the guys who convert the chances aren't as good.
He's a stable pick in terms of you're always relying on pens and set pieces as well,
Free
which
kicks,
could
but
just come your way.
you're
So
getting
yeah,
guaranteed 180 minutes, which is a lot, says a lot in a double. You're not going to take that over many other players.
I don't know. I'd probably go other places
It depends. Like on a free
before I went
hit,
to
on a free hit that if Leicester mids aren't going to become an option, where will he go in midfield? I mean, in terms of like your
United.
picks,
United.
Sancho and Bruno.
United. Sancho Bruno, I think Rashford is a low-key differential option this game because we had that conversation yesterday because of his performance. I want to see what Rannick is saying in the press conference today because he got the bulk of the chances. He was our biggest goal threat against Everton. And I think nobody else was making runs in behind so far for us. And Rashford did that. And Rannick might have noticed that. So if you're wildcarding in 34 and looking for a fun punt, Rashford could be worth it. Because like you mentioned, Rannick will be aware that he will want somebody to make runs in behind against Liverpool as well, and Rashford offers that. So I think there's a punt there with high upside if you're wildcarding in 34.
Decent shot there. We could
Yeah.
go with that. But
Yeah.
Southampton, not much more. Move on.
No,
I think
yeah, move on. I'm
Broya
not
has a good
interested.
chance. Broya has a good chance of starting both. If you have him, I wouldn't mind playing him this week.
Yeah.
Because
Let's
not
talk
being
Burnley.
I
And
was just saying Broya not being in the starting lineup for that thrashing is probably the best thing for him. His stock goes up just by that.
agreed.
Brighton skip.
Let's talk about. Yeah, I want to
Burnley.
talk about Wood.
Wood.
What do you do?
I think if you have a free transfer, and you definitely don't pick him on a free hit. That goes without saying. If you have a free transfer which you can spare, I think you move him on to Wood potentially. But if you
Yeah,
have him,
I don't mind the move.
I think he gets one start, one bench appearance.
If you're wildcarding in 34 and if you have all the players you need, I don't mind starting him, shifting him to a Newcastle striker.
Agree.
I don't
You have the
mind.
transfer
Yeah,
available,
that's
but would I do it for a hit?
no, I wouldn't do it for a hit. If you have no other places to go in terms of chasing with your transfers before a wildcard in 34, then you move him to a Newcastle striker. That's the only scenario.
But the low key, the double's not bad because you have West Ham right after they've played in the Europa League, and you have Southampton, who are Southampton.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Yeah, I agree with you. Just worth mentioning why we think it's one bench, one starting is because in the post-match, Sean Dyche did say that they've been trying to get Vidra up to speed and they want him to play more minutes, and he's impressed every time he's come on. And they said that Wood is actually a little bit overplaying and overthinking at the moment. Sorry, Wood is overplaying and overthinking at the moment, and he's thinking more about the team and he needs to get scores. So he's mentioning that he's going through a bad patch and that they want to include Vidra. And he also mentioned that J. Rodriguez and Wood Weghorst are sort of similar strikers, and J. Rod is doing well at the moment. So that's the reason why we're not sure he plays both games.
Let's just talk about dial back from a
Yeah.
macro strategy standpoint, especially since the Chelsea factor has come into 34. But every transfer now, even if it's not worth a hit, is probably going to lead you to taking a hit in 34. So effectively, a
Correct.
free transfer, you have to view that as sort of a hit this week unless you're already loaded up on Chelsea or don't want to load up on Chelsea, right?
Correct.
So which are these
Yeah.
players you think are worth that this week?
A captain. That's about it. That's it. Like I'm debating that in my head myself. You can bring up my team. I think it's because it adds into the context of this conversation.
That's yours.
Yeah, I think we just discussed my team because it ties in with the discussion quite nicely. My current team is Dubravka, Trent, White, Cancelo, Salah, Saka, Barnes, and Kulusevski. Up front, I have Kane, Richarlison, and Tony. I have currently Robbo benched and Doherty, who's not playing. Now, my move at the moment that's planned is Kane to Ronaldo because I want a United captain in place. The reason why I'm going for selling Kane, there are 2 3 factors at play here. I'm worried about Mo Salah against us because he's going to be playing Telles and Maguire on his side, and I'm scared of the things he's going to do to them. I'm genuinely worried. A lot of people are considering selling Salah, and I do buy the points that Bruno's a safer pick for the next 2 weeks, but I think Salah's a captaincy option this week. If you're not hot on any of the doublers, I think Salah is a genuine captaincy option this week. And being a United fan, I'm scared. So that's one thing. That said, the one thing that people are talking about is that United are playing Liverpool after their FA Cup game. And Spurs have an even bigger rest period, and we know what Spurs are capable of against Brighton at home. That said, I'm just in my head more worried about the damage that a Salah can do than a Kane can do. In my head, I'm also thinking about maybe I want a little Timo Werner in the future, so that sort of slides into the thing. And I don't mind the idea of going big in an attacking or a midfield spot because I don't mind shifting Ronaldo to a Chelsea player in 34 also because it generates some funds which allows me to upgrade maybe Saka or Kulusevski to Chelsea mids that I might want, or it allows me to upgrade Doherty to a Reece James that I might want in the future as well. So I don't mind going there because I want to distribute funds in the future. That's what my thinking is. And I'm looking to save the transfer and attack Chelsea if they win against Palace in the next week. The doubt that I'm wrestling myself with is currently I'm playing Richarlison at home against Leicester and I'm benching Robbo. Is it worth getting Shar for a Doherty on a free transfer and benching Richarlison at the moment? I don't know. I'm not quite sure at the moment. What do you think?
I think you attack the weakest link in your team, and that right now looks to me is Doherty because he's out for the season. We know that
Yeah.
for sure. And the thing
Yeah.
is now you already have some like perma play defenders. Trent, Cancelo, Robertson are going to play every game for you. You have White as a decent backup, who's nailed. Whenever these guys get rotated or rested, he can sub in. So I think Doherty to Newcastle defender makes sense. I do not like that Kane out move at all because you're going to be scrambling to get him back at some point in the future. You're booking a transfer.
Not necessarily because I'm looking to free hit. And I don't mind booking a transfer to chase a captain because I do genuinely feel that a United attacker is the best captaincy option this week. And I think it's
So
worth it
effectively
doing for
keep
the
that in mind. You're
cap.
taking an 8 because you will want Kane or at least a Spurs attacker at some point before 38. Because even the 38 fixtures away to Norwich, the 35 game against Leicester, you're treading
Yeah.
on dangerous ground.
Yeah. But I don't mind it because next week, if Chelsea win, I want a Chelsea player as a captaincy option. Now, whether that's Mount Kai, James, or Timo, I don't mind that because I want to redistribute those funds to get a Chelsea attacker next week. So I'm effectively getting Kane out for 2 captaincy options this week and next week. I know for a fact that I'll want to captain a Chelsea player next week if they hit the double in 34.
That's fair.
So
But 35 is when they have the Leicester thing we just talked about.
that's when I move back to Leicester. That's why I like the idea of free hitting 36 because I can go a little bit in terms of just chasing these horses, not worrying about 36, knowing that I have a free hit for the biggest double game week in the season left and just get my captains in place for 34, 35, 36. Sorry, 33, 34, 35.
Some hits
That's
will
the
be
thinking.
some hits will be in play for the next few weeks.
Yeah. That's exactly why I'm thinking right now of saving. Get the full picture in terms of when
You have
Chelsea
only
are
one
going to
free
double. Are
transfer
they
or
going to
two? I thought you had two. You have only one.
do?
You have two, right? So either we're going to burn one.
Yeah, I want to roll it. Do Kane to Ronaldo and roll. That's what I'm currently inclined towards doing. Move into 34 with
And
two
change Doherty to a
transfers.
Chelsea defender next week.
I want James. No doubt in my head, I don't want James. I don't want to go into a double without James. So, thinking is that once we know the full picture in terms of how 34 to 38 is going to play out, I don't mind the idea of moving into 34 with 2 free transfers and compromise attacking a Newcastle player this week because that's the only other thing that I'd probably do and set up my team for the run-in. So if you're taking hits, I don't mind taking hits. I don't mind taking a -4 or a -8 next week because I'll have the full picture in front of me and then set up and decide
And you
where I'm
could
going to
argue
free
that
hit, whether
Chelsea
it's
players are probably worth the hit because you have the back-to-back doubles. That being said, if you're going to free hit in 36, it's technically only one double you're bringing them in
I
for.
can free it in 37. I want to make that call next week. I'm just delaying the decision. I'm getting my captain in place this week. In my head, I know I don't want to sell Salah. I'm comfortable selling Kane over Salah. In my head, one thing that's also playing a factor in my head is that I'll eventually probably want Son over Kane. So I don't mind shifting from Kane to Son as a result of this move as well. Let's say I'm downgrading I'm buying Ronaldo this week, then I'm downgrading Ronaldo to Timo next week. I have some funds. I'm upgrading Saka to a Chelsea midfielder, for example. I don't mind moving that Chelsea midfielder to Son in 35. Because 36, I'm not worried about it too much. 36, I'm free hitting.
I get what you're saying.
That's the thinking in my head at the moment. These are loose ideas at the moment. Still,
Like you said, it's
the
like you
news
mentioned
drop-
last time, these are all chasing the halls. The per week haul is what you're chasing. And like you said, if anyone, the ceiling is with the United guys this week.
Yeah, it's just putting yourself in a position to get lucky, and it's more a factor of Norwich being Norwich rather than United being United. United have the capacity to do that, and I want to chase that. That's all. And I mean, it's not for everybody to sell a Harry Kane in prime form. We're talking about somebody who's way better than Ronaldo is at the moment. We're talking about a team that's way better than United are at the moment. But Norwich home just feels like a Ronaldo fixture to me.
Let's just touch upon United. I don't think we covered upon them enough in the previous section. In terms of free hit picks, top 3?
Ronaldo, Bruno. If you want to compromise on one of the attackers to get Telles, I don't mind Telles as a pick. And if you want to punt, I think this week, just for a free hit, I like the idea of going Rashi over Sancho. Just this week.
As isolation, who do you like of the two more, Rashford or Sancho? Because United mid is possibly someone I'm considering. I can't obviously afford Bruno. Who do you prefer?
Just in isolation, if you're holding for a longer duration, if you're wanting United attacker,
I'm probably want to bring in, let's say, one of Sancho or Rashford this week, or what? Sancho, Rashford, Ward-Prowse. Those are my choices.
Definitely not Ward-Prowse. Go for the United attacker. I'll tell you that straight up. Go for the United attacker. Chase that haul. Go Rashi if you want. I do have no comms against Sancho. I think Rashi just has a slightly higher upside. That's about it. He's been terrible. He just shows signs in that Everton game. Do you want to use that small subset to chase a haul in 33? I don't mind it, but I have nothing against Sancho. If you're a risk taker, I'd say Rashi, Sancho, Ward-Prowse. But I don't mind Sancho as a pick as well. Sancho is he's first choice now. He's going to play all the games.
Sancho appears to be. Does he play on the left or on the right now? He keeps changing.
He's playing on the left.
So won't Rashford play on the left when he comes in now?
Yeah, so there's a chance he goes to the right because his output has decreased a little in the last 2 weeks. Also, Rashford has played on the right quite often under Rannick as well. Like in the beginning, when Rannick was playing Rashford every week, Rashford was on the right and Sancho was on the left. And actually, that helped Rashford because he was making a lot of off-the-ball runs and trying to get into goal-scoring positions on the right-hand side. So, yeah. But definitely go United attacker over Ward-Prowse.
I don't know, but I still like Ward-Prowse more because I think there's 2 fixtures worth of. I still can't get over the Liverpool fixture for United.
Fair enough. But I'm telling you, go for United attacker.
We'll continue.
We are capable. We are capable. That's all.
Right. Let's just go fixture by fixture and let's touch upon Son for a bit. Would you include him on a free hit?
On a free hit, I would definitely. If I'm having one single game weeker, the first single game weeker on my team sheet would be Mo Salah, and the second one would be Son, and the third one would be Cancelo.
If you ask me if I was just using a transfer, I would still bring in Son over Bruno, even with the 2 doubles.
If you're not wildcarding in 34, I don't mind that.
I think so. You prioritize Son.
Yeah. Provided you have a good captaincy option.
Let's talk about captains also. Now, let's just, like you said, you already put your United pitch forward. Let's just put them aside. Now, if you're to go for a single game weeker, do you like the Brighton fixture better or do you like the United fixture better? That is Liverpool or Spurs captain. Who do you prefer?
Mo Salah.
Same. I think the Spurs-Brighton game could be slightly tricky. Brighton were very good against Arsenal. The midfield looked very solid. I don't think Spurs will steamroll Brighton like they have done other teams. They'll probably win 2-0, something like that, but I don't see them steamrolling them.
And remember, Spurs struggled in that first half against Villa. They weren't really good. They were lethal, but if I remember correctly, Villa had a 1.97 XG and Spurs had a 0.9 XG. They were extremely lethal. If you think about Son's first goal, that's a snapshot out of nowhere. Literally came out of nowhere.
I was lucky also. It bounced off Cash Bum and goes to Son, and then a lot of fortune at play.
Exactly. It's also the matchup, right? I don't think Maguire and Telles are really good defensively, and Mo Salah plays on that side. So Mo Salah.
Rested also. So There's no like
Yeah.
issue now.
Yeah.
It is against
He's going
United.
to be playing the FA Cup game before that. That's a consideration. But if you're going for a single game weeker,
That's
Salah.
a consideration for all the
If
three
you,
teams: Chelsea, Liverpool,
yeah,
and City. They're all going to play in the FA Cup before they play in the league.
yeah. If you're going for a double game week captain and you don't want to get in a United player, where do you go?
Chris Wood.
Newcastle striker.
Newcastle striker. Yeah. ASM is
Yeah.
also fine, but I think you go with the Newcastle guys.
Yeah. I don't mind that. And if people still want to put the armband on Bukayo Saka, I don't mind that either. I think he's reliable. You know, yes, the second fixture is against Chelsea and it's a tough fixture, but Southampton is a good fixture. Whichever way you look at it, Southampton is a good fixture. So I don't mind Bukayo Saka as an option. And it's a must-win game for Arsenal. You know, people have said that Arsenal have lost fourth and they're done. No, they have a. I think Spurs have a slightly tougher run in. Are the team in form at the moment, but they're tied on points. Arsenal still have everything to play for at the moment. So I don't mind going for a Bukayo Saka as a captain either. If you own Martinelli, I like that as an outside differential hall chasing captaincy option as well.
Liverpool, Man United, I think we've covered. Chelsea, Arsenal now, like we said, the game is a few days after the FA Cup game. But from what I've been reading on fan forums, everybody wants James now rested for Palace and to play against Arsenal. Because the things could get interesting, especially if Spurs win against Brighton. They come very close to Chelsea when this fixture takes off. So I think Chelsea will not afford to like rest players against Arsenal. I think we'll go full strength.
You think people want James rested in the FA Cup semi?
Yes. Over instead of Arsenal, because
Why?
he just played 120 minutes, right? Because against Madrid. They say if you have to pick him in
But
one game, pick him in Arsenal.
he played CB, though. I think that's really underestimating Palace. Palace are a good
No, but
team. You
against
will want
Madrid, he
these
was
teams.
completely dead on his feet because he was on Vinicius the whole game, right? It was a very tiring game, and obviously we don't know of his fitness. The thing is now with Chelsea, the turnaround is interesting because it's Tuesday, Sunday. The most long turnaround possible. So you could say that, like, Tuesday possibly won't matter at all by the time Sunday comes around. Everyone starts afresh. In which case, I don't mind.
Exactly. Yeah, fair enough. So I think if Reece James is yellow and not in the red, he will play this game and then just recover and maybe some management minutes.
But I
But
think expect us
I
to go
think you start
strong
your
against Arsenal.
yeah. There's no doubt in my head. Your first choice front three now is Kai, Timo, and Mount for sure.
Absolutely.
And people need to be thinking about that because the player pool that you're probably going to be targeting in 34 if Chelsea do beat Palace, it's not a given. But if they do, then I think Kai and Mount both are very interesting players. And James and Alonso are interesting players in defense and Timo. So you have this 5-player pool and
And
Rudiger
Rudy.
as a safe bet. Yeah. Yeah. So you need to be mindful of that in 34 before making your transfers in 33 if you don't have a wild card. That's all.
Everton, Leicester, Newcastle, that's all covered. City, Brighton. Anything else in particular?
City. We haven't touched upon City. I think just let's touch upon City and the run in because I think in this madness in terms of us chasing doublers in 34/35, City might get ignored. And their fixture list at the moment is Brighton at Liverpool FA Cup semi-final, then Brighton at home, then Watford at home, then Madrid at home, then Leeds away, then Madrid away, then Newcastle home. So it's still a great fixture run. People that don't own Cancelo prioritize getting him at the moment.
Absolutely, because like we said, now Walker is being injured, means Cancelo is going to play right back a lot of the games, which again shoots up his potential completely. He's suspended for the first leg of the Champions League semi-final as well. So that's why it's interesting now in terms of that's why people using transfers this week comes with such a huge opportunity cost on using it on like double game week players from these not so good teams versus teams now that have actually good fixtures, good players coming.
Like the biggest fear in my head is, let's say, for example, I go for Doherty to Shah this week. And next week, I find out that given the Chelsea midfielders that I want to get, whether that's Mount or Kai, I'm not being able to go because I'm 0.3 or 0.4 million short. And I know that I had an option to go from Doherty to Kelly to help me fund that move. I think it's much better to chase upside with the better teams compared to just attacking this week.
You've seen that.
That's all. Yeah, that's all. Cool. We'll move to your team. We've already discussed mine.
Yep, I've got De Gea in goal, Cancelo, James, Alexander-Arnold in defense, Kulusevski, Salah cap, Martinelli, Saka midfield, Weghorst, Broja, and Kane. On the bench is currently Ramsdale, Rafinha, Dean, and Doherty, and I have 2 free transfers, and I'm planning to use my bench boost this week. and get it out of the way so that I can go with a leaner squad with a couple of dead players on my wildcard in 34. So the plan initially was I was going to do Tellez, Cher, and Madison in, but that's completely gone out the window now. So I don't think I'm going to bring in Tellez necessarily. I already have De Gea. I don't really fancy double United defense because I think you could concede against Norwich as well.
Yeah.
Not impossible. So I'm thinking I'll probably go double Newcastle defense. Now that increases my budget for the midfielder I can get. I can spend up to 9.1. Now I think Rashford is slightly out of budget, but I can possibly bring in Sancho now for that Rafinha slot.
I don't mind it. I like Sancho. That's Sancho.
I think this will come down to
That's a
Sancho
great
or
team.
Ward-Prowse.
Zoff, I think you're going to see a big green this week. That's a really good team. I
hope so. Need to make up ground. Lost a lot of ground the last 4-5 game weeks this period now. Capitalize.
But there's opportunity. Especially with the
Chelsea,
news that
because ultimately when you wildcard, you want the immediate gain, right? Immediately, like I can bring in the 3 Chelsea players. And like I said, we're not going into them this week because there's 2 more games of sample size.
Exactly.
Q&A?
Hi. I like it, by the way. I'd be tempted to captain Martinelli over Salah in your position. I think there's upside there. I think there is upside there.
I think Martinelli, I think 5 or 6 game weeks and he's still not got me a return. So faith is a bit of an issue there.
And he likes playing you a lot, right?
I don't captain against Chelsea. That's a rule.
Yeah. But he's done well. That monster goal that he scored was against Chelsea, right?
That was last year. No, that was No. That last year when he scored was when it was off a defensive error. We lost to them at the bridge. I remember 1-0, and he did score, but that was more of a defensive error. I can remember right.
Cool. One thing we haven't actually discussed is something people were asking as a super chat was any impact on Spurs attack with Doherty missing, and a lot of people are saying that Emerson Royal is a good Doherty replacement option at the moment, especially with the Chelsea news. I think you don't go for the Spurs defender. I don't like the Spurs. We've seen Doherty was a good pick because of what he did in attack. Spurs haven't really been defensively solid and resolute. They've done more in attack, and I don't know what happens now. Whether Cess is playing and then Royal is going to play on the and like we mentioned, there's always it's a lopsided fullback where one is way more attacking than the other. We don't know what's going to be happening with those Spurs fullbacks, so I don't know where I want to go.
He is nailed.
I don't know how that.
I think he is nailed on the right side with Doherty out because on the left side you have Ryan and Sergio who was going to rotate. I think he is nailed on the right side. I wouldn't spend a transfer, but on a wildcard, I'm quite keen to have him as a 4.5 defender.
I think a little because I don't know how much I trust, and I don't know how attacking he's going to be. Especially if
he is attacking. The problem is the output. He throws in 100 crosses. Problem is 2 of those crosses will find the target. So he does attack. His problem he's not good at attacking.
Yeah. So I think there are better picks.
No, this is just this is going to be my bench fodder. If I'm planning a 4 at the back, like he's going to be my second sub or first sub, something like that.
So let's just talk a little bit. James is going to be in your team. Cancelo is going to be in your team. Trent is going to be in your team. So you're looking at him as a 4th defender, right?
No, as a 5th defender. I'm practically going to go.
Who's the 4th defender?
4th guy is going to be either Robbo or Rudiger.
So if you go Rudy and if you spend a little more, even Matip is an option. And we've spoken. We like him for the run-in. I just like Liverpool's defensive reliability more than Spurs at the moment.
I kind of want to keep the 3rd Liverpool slot open just in case there's an injury to one of the big guys. Suddenly you see Mane or like Salah getting somebody Mane getting injured, and I want to have the space to have the Jota or someone.
Even if that Liverpool attacker is not injured, once we start looking at them in 34, 35, I think they're one of the best differentials in the game. Jota, Diaz, wherever you want to go for 1 week, worth it. Best attack in the league.
I don't want to necessarily tie up that spot in that 3rd guy. That's the thing with Matip.
Fair enough.
Let's do the Q&A.
Yes, guys. Send in your
the
questions.
Probably bunch of other topics we have missed because there's so much to cover. The Q&A can probably help us with that. I haven't got the window open, so you can take it.
I'll take it. We have a super chat from Pulkit Chabra. Could Ron be dropped for that mobile incident?
Nah.
I personally don't see it. Unless Rangnick says anything in the press conference today, I think
the sanction would have to come from the Premier League. It's not going to come from Man United.
Yep. Interesting, by the way. That's quite exciting from a United point of view, where we have a new manager next season. Just wanted to mention that until the questions start coming in. Also, guys, thank you for tuning in. On a Friday morning, we have 580 people watching us. Make sure you're hitting like and subscribe. And happy Easter weekend to all of you as well.
And also, we have to
Question from
congratulate our friend Sid.
Ishan.
Sid is getting married this weekend. Congratulations to you, Sid.
Congratulations, Sid, and good luck. You'll need it. I hope the wife's not watching the stream. Anyway, question from Ishan. Laporte, Cancelo, go-to enablers, better assets on a BP, only free hit remaining 2. Vegos to Gerard Wood with a -4 since Veg's position is in doubt.
I heard J-Rod there and immediately I got turned off.
No, he's Vegos to he wants to convert to Gerard or Wood. I think that's what I understand out of the question.
Wood sounds good. But again, it depends on what we discussed about opportunity cost for the transfers, right?
Yeah. And we don't like that with a -4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's asking Laporte or Cancelo GTO enable other better assets on a BPA, on a BB. If you're looking for enablers and defense,
I think
Newcastle
he's asking Laporte
versus
Cancelo, and this is a big debate on Black Box as well about whether like Cancelo justifies the price difference. I think he does.
Always. Not even a debate in my head. It's not even a question in my head. Different category of a defender. Simple as that. And especially now with Diaz being fit, I think it muddies the CB waters a little bit. Cancelo is Cancelo, different league. No, not worth discussing. Anyway, Yogesh Rupani, Doc, Cody, Raf, and Laka out. Cancelo, Shar, Son, and Mateta in. I like it.
Yep, I like all those 4 players.
Agreed. Start Robbo or Vegos? Zoff.
Robbo. I won't even think for a second about that. Blindly Robbo.
Okay. Joshua Tan is asking -8 for Ramsdale, Doc, Raf, and Watkins to foster Amarty, Son, and Gelhardt.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah. I don't like selling Ramsdale this week.
He's completely weakening his squad basically just to get Son.
He's dead-ending one position. He's asking if he should do Doc and Watkins for free to Cancelo and Gelhardt. I don't mind it. Getting Cancelo in place, I don't mind it. But I'd prioritize Son over Cancelo at the moment.
He won't be happy enough Palace win the FA Cup because Villa's done. He'll be losing Watkins before that.
Yeah. Make the big moves next week, Joshua, is what we think. Be patient, do 1 or 2 small moves this week and make the big moves next week. Start Pope or Dubravka this week. Dubravka. Under Eddie Howe, Newcastle have won 4 out of the 5 games at St. James's Park. They're a different beast at home.
And against Eddie Howe's nature, we always think he's gung-ho. He's gone very defensive.
They've done better in defense than in attack.
Correct.
Zoff, this one's interesting. Kane plus Cornet or Salah plus Broya on a free hit? Salah plus Broya for me.
Kane plus Cornet or Salah plus Broya on a free hit? Salah plus Broya.
Yeah. The simple answer is because I prefer Salah to Kane this week. That's about it.
Agree.
Yeah. Just waiting for more questions. Zoff, are you taking a hit to play the bench boost? What's the biggest hit you take to play it? Interesting question.
-8 maybe, not more than that. But it will also depend on the players if you're bringing in whether you're confident with that they're going to repay the hit or not.
Yeah. If you can get the bench boost out of the way this week before your wildcard, both of us think it's the best thing to do. If you can. Don't stretch and do stupid things to get it out of the way. But if you can, we think it's worth it. I think that's it for the Q&As off.
Yep,
we'll wrap up the stream now. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Okay, FPL Escapates is asking a question. Let's answer the last one. Best Rafinha replacement in the 6 to 7.5 bracket for the run-in. Own Saka, already no wildcard. Chelsea midfielder next week.
Martinelli?
How much is Mount?
7.5.
Yeah, Mason Mount is my answer.
Yeah, 7.5. I don't mind Zaha either.
Depending if they're the double as well.
They're going to have a double at some point. That depends on your chip strategy.
Great. Cool. That's it, guys. Thank you for joining us this week. Really enjoyed chatting with you, Zoff. Gave me some clarity in terms of what we should do or not do. And make sure you guys are hitting like and subscribe. If you liked our pod, do share on Twitter as well. It helps us get the word out there. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
See you next week. Wildcard and Chelsea doubles should be a fun episode.
Bye bye.